George the Animal Steel, one of my favorite interviews, is on there. He had the most hair on the back of a human I've ever seen. I actually put my arm on George to thank him. I thought he was wearing a sweater at the time. I'm serious. It was really incredible. And the guy was a great actor. Turned out to be, I think he was a school teacher from L.A. And at the end of the interview, and you know how he used to talk, oh, no. And then at the end, he turned to me and he went, how'd that go? Is that okay? In that voice, wait a second, where did this character come from? We'll take a quick break. I want to thank Autumn Page Photography, Sims Honda, two of our sponsors. What we're doing with sponsors, by the way, is we're giving away free time the first month, and that'll be like $12,000 a minute after that. We'll be right back on the Tony Ventrella podcast with BS and Pete. That was a great long opening segment there, wasn't it? So we'll jump in.
Again?
I gotta head out, but
Cool.
hit me up if there's something to do.
Sure.
Tomorrow night or this weekend if there's some sweet thing to do or something.
Okay. Yeah, I've got Chad working on a bumper for it right now.
Alright, I'll see you later.
Thanks, dude. Facebook Livers, this is Aaron, the producer. I am working on a way to get the volume pumped up. It sounds like you guys aren't hearing it very well. Just sit tight. We're just on a short break. We'll be back with more of their regular action shortly.
Obviously, Brittany Griner did.
And that counted for both of us.
Kelsey's like 40 away from Brittany Griner. What's kind of coincidental is okay, thank you for your help.
Thanks. See you
There's
soon.
a player at Ohio State who's on track too. She'd have to go crazy next year.
Okay.
If she doesn't turn pro. He runs the same style of offense.
Oh yeah, okay. What's the guy's name?
So he was before Mike Neighbors. He was Neighbors' boss.
Styles.
No. Let's see. That was the
Yeah, he was great. Jim.
Yeah, he
I just saw the
big
name.
payday at Ohio State. They're pretty good this year.
Okay. Okay.
Because of that.
What if
Kelsey needs 152 to tie Jackie Styles, which could be done if she's averaging 30 points a game. So they do that in 5 games a year.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that she's a great player. My question is, will she get shoved around so much in the WNBA?
No.
Of course, there's a point. Would she be a point guard?
She's
Yeah,
strong.
She would be, yeah.
I
Is she
think
strong
she
enough?
could be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, because Sue Bird isn't much taller than.
Yeah.
Well, she's fun. But it's her shiftiness in basketball IQ that makes her. She's not the fastest in the game. She just changes the events and moves her speed.
Yeah.
She's heavy on her heels all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about it as far as the whole public relations end of it, whatever team she goes to is getting a gem.
Yeah.
A gem. I mean, just a Sue Bird kind of a gem.
Yes.
As far as the ability that Bill was talking about going out and speaking at schools and all this stuff, willingly volunteering for that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm hearing Chantel Lisser might be the top goal.
Why not?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
How do you say her last name? Osawa?
Kosovo.
Yeah.
Great
That
With
she's
only
fun.
one offer from any school, and that was a mistake. The guy was on a recruiting trip to Arizona and saw. Was looking at her teammate and just, yeah, that's an interesting player.
She doesn't jump it. She just hits the back of the net.
And
That's-
scores 20 a game.
Yeah.
Okay, are we actually running now, Aaron?
You can't move her.
Okay.
She's just so strong.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
The
All
only
right.
question I would have is, she's a bit quirky with her conditioning and training, but if you
Yeah.
get a player with that kind of productivity, I
Yeah.
think that.
She's kind of a Marshawn Lynch in her quirkiness. You know. Yeah. Yeah.
Great leader.
Yeah.
Wonder what kind of condition.
Yeah.
But when she gets up and down the floor,
Yeah.
she.
Dennis Rodman was one-dimensional.
Yes.
But-
Yes.
Yeah.
She's not. She can.
Shoots that three with
Yeah.
gets off the ground like I do, a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
She's got an inside, outside game.
Yeah. Were you at the Sports Star banquet?
No.
Were either of you guys there?
I know, I didn't.
So Kelsey Plum won, and
Yeah.
she got up there, and she was when you're saying she's good in front of a camera or PR. She said, "Hey, one thing, my teammates, we just finished practice. I had some doing my mascara and some doing my hair. It's a total team effort." She was sitting there. She was really nice.
That is the key right there.
Yeah.
Guys, I wish more NFL guys, NBA guys would use a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
Right off the top to diffuse any possible situation.
Yes.
I wish some of our government would use
Yes.
All right, just a few more seconds here.
Cool, all right.
I was listening to Don't blame it all on the media. Of course it is. It's jabbing every chance it has.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It wears you out after a while.
Yes.
So I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I actually went out and bought a copy of the New York Times the other day. It was in,
It's the failing.
yeah, it is, of course, yeah. Because it's a great
He
piece.
said that 3 times.
It's a great newspaper. So a lot of
That probably is good for their business when it says that.
Of course it is. Oh my God, that's all you have to do is knock some kind of a movie.
Yeah.
Or a singer who said something, or, you know.
Tried Nordstrom for not carrying the bottle.
What do we got here?
Their stock drops now.
Anything?
Cool thing
Yeah.
The cool thing about any kind of art, whether it's America or any other.
Anything, yeah. Oh, that's
decisions based on
good, huh?
whatever happens, regardless of what you say. And a lot of times, if you say something, they're going to go the opposite way. And so it's just, I wonder about some of these controversies that pop up with companies. I'm thinking, I wonder if somebody in the PR department created that.
Yeah, it's all staged.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Go through the history of this was done for them.
Yeah.
Kind of like pro wrestling.
Now, that's real. I've seen that. Actually, back in the day with, I think it's Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
Was up for, the head of, she's up for a cabinet post.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Trump
that's
talked to
right.
her about being like a labor secretary.
Because because she was a big donor. But I remember when not senior, but her dad, not her granddad, I remember her granddad was sending, relief
Talk.
to local radio, 'cause I was in Norwalk, Connecticut, which is where they're from. They would have at the, Norwalk High School tonight, it'll be, Rowdy Piper, yeah.
Really, at the high school.
They'd have one feature match, and then the rest of them would just be, other guys. And it'd be like $2 to go. I always thought that was cool. And,
Yeah.
My favorite was Playboy Buddy.
I like
I was a big Buddy Rose.
What do we think? Yeah, there we go.
Gorgeous George, going way back. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the sheep had, like,
that
sand,
should
would throw sand in your face. That was
Okay.
From the desert, so his whole deal, the feet gotta move on me, I just throw sand, and you go like this, next thing you know, he's pinned. That was
We
crazy.
had roller derby in this market too.
Really?
Yeah, we had roller derby telecasts.
Love
There
roller
was all these, the Bay City Bombers,
Yeah.
Big Joni Weston, the blonde bomber.
Okay.
That's what we need to bring into the new arena. Once we get this, we're
You know, there
right
is a
there.
roller derby league up here in Seattle.
Yes,
I guess so,
yeah.
Okay, I think we got it. I'm gonna. Oh, that's a little. Not the greatest quality, but it's something. All right, here we go. Coming back live in just a few.
Yeah, it's a junior roller derby.
Record there.
Brother, you gotta be tough. You need
All right, I'm gonna run the stinger and then we'll get going.
I mean, just try roller skates to begin with, without having somebody elbow you in the ribs.
Yeah.
Okay.
That used to be on television a lot.
Yep, it was.
Back in the day when Chris Schenkel was doing the bowling, show on every weekend, that roller derby.
Oh, Bert.
All right, you guys ready? Here we go.
Yeah, we are. Welcome back. It's the Tony Ventrella podcast with BS and Pete Fewing, Bill Schwartz, Tony Ventrella. We are streaming live today on all our Facebook pages, Pete and Bill and me, thanks to Screaming Flea Media down here in the South Center area. Thanks to Aaron, who's working the cameras and the audio today. We were talking a little bit about just about everything before, and I wanted to get to really something that could easily have been the lead in this or any other radio or TV show, and that is the success so far of Kelsey Plum, who is just doing great. Wonderful diplomat, just won Sports Star of the Year a week or so ago, and we're going to go to Bill on this one because she's getting so close to becoming the all-time leading scorer in college basketball, and you had a chance to talk to her.
Yeah, this is a remarkable young woman. She came in for a one-on-one interview. It's now Tuesdays with Kelsey because she's become so popular and people want her time. But she was late because she was speaking to a junior high audience And that's what she does every week. She volunteers besides her classes. She's a senior at the University of Washington. And then, basketball's a job too, Coach. You know all about young people in college. It's a vocation. It's a job. And it's 25 hours a week officially. But you can, ask them to do more with their time and shooting their own free. Anyway, Kelsey always goes out of her way to talk to us. And I just find her comments refreshing about herself, her approach to the game. And let's give you an update. She's third all-time on the NCAA career list. She needs 152 points to catch Jackie Stiles as the all-time points leader in women's basketball history. Now, this is remarkable for a University of Washington player because you're in the Pac-12, number one, and you're seeing lights-out great defenses. Jackie Stiles played at a little school, Southwest Missouri State. So she could go out and get 50 if she wanted to.
She did, too.
But Plum has become an ultimate team player, too, where they're passing and rebounding, and she gets it about court awareness, and she's in a zone. The game has slowed down like an easy video game for her. So it's getting down to it. She has only 4 regular season games to go, and counting the Pac-12 tournament and the NCAA, she would have maybe half a dozen games to pass Jackie Stiles, so she'd have to average 25, 30 points to do it, somewhere in there. I think she can do it.
It's been impressive to me because there's been a couple games this season where she hasn't played in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And that shows sort of a selflessness and team-first attitude that's impressive. At the Sports Star Banquet, it was great to listen to her because she got up there and she looked great. And she said, I want to thank my coaches. And she said, most players get a green light. I got a freeway from Mike Neighbors. She said, I've never even seen a light. He just says, go play, which is a great compliment to a smart coaching decision. And then she said, and I have to thank my team. I had one on this eye, one on this eye doing mascara. Someone did my hair, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, she sounded like she was in Indianapolis 500 with a pit stop or something. But she's delightful. Really, I think as a sports guy, I played at Washington. I saw a Washington basketball game, women's game when I was there. She's worth the price to go and see. She's
absolutely.
just a lot of
She's
fun.
every bit as savvy a basketball mind as Isaiah Thomas was, who's now the talk of the NBA. Similar players. They're left-handed. People have said you're too short, you're too slow, you can't make it, and they've proved them wrong along the entire way.
He's Isaiah's doing great. Here we go with Bill's interview with Kelsey Plum just the other day on Tuesdays with Kelsey, and looking forward to hearing this. Come back, we'll play that.
Tuesdays with Maury, Tuesdays with Kelsey. It's good.
I actually played Maury in that show. We did a show at the church in Redmond, where Evergreen Family Theater. Yeah. We Win, who was with us, played the kid. Played this Tuesdays with Maury. Played Mitch Albom, who wrote the. And we did a great job. I'm going to tell you, it was just the two of us on stage, and we're both.
I would love to see that.
That
was one of my favorite. I read all his books.
It's on video. Oh, Mitch was great. I interviewed him. In fact, he wrote one called The First Phone Call from Heaven.
And the 5 people you meet in heaven.
5 people you meet in heaven. The first phone call from heaven. And I've had him on. I forgot which book it was, but just fascinating. And one of the all-time great sports columnists.
Yes.
Way before that, he's
Detroit
Free Press. He's written several books. So we played. We played Maury, and one of the nights that we did it for the benefit of ALS Foundation chapter in Seattle, and they sold it out. And in the audience, in the front row, was a man in a wheelchair on a breathing apparatus, who had a computer which he ran with his eyes because he couldn't move. African American man, and I sat. Of course, I knew him before that because I had spoken at one of their benefits, but it was just a moving moment. And I would talk about pressure being up. There were people in the audience that were suffering from this. I'm playing a guy with it.
Yes.
And I'm feeling guilty the whole night. And they all said, oh, he did a good job. We don't know. Don't feel. And we raised a couple thousand. It was just a wonderful night. But anyway, all right, we're ready there.
All right.
Yeah, that was a great book.
Here we go. Coming back.
You can come back. Bring it back. Just bring it back, Cole.
So So thanks again to Kelsey Plum, the great star at the University of Washington. Final road trip in the Pac-12 for her tonight Friday night against the UCLA Bruins.
Yeah.
Let me get it right.
8 o'clock on TV.
And then Sunday on the Pac-12 network, too, against USC. So important games for Washington to get a high seed not only in the Pac-12 tournament. They'd like to get 2 byes if they can. This time of year wears on you. And then a high seed. There's a chance they could host the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament at Heck Yeah at Alaska Airlines Arena. That would be great.
That would be super. One quick, I do want to get one comment from both of you on Lorenzo and the men's team, which has some home games this weekend. They've not had a great season. He's a super guy with a terrific career at a point where people are beginning to talk about his future, which frankly has always bothered me in this business. And I know it's something that I had to do on television for all those years. Well, is this coach going to make it, or is he going to get through the season? I'm going, what if I went to your company? Say you work at Boeing and you're an executive. I'm going, hey, I wonder if John's going to get fired this week. What do you think? Should we can this guy because they're not making the money? But I understand that that's just part of the deal. Just briefly, what's your feeling on that, on how it becomes so public? Pete, you're in that same arena. Nobody's talking about canning you yet, but it's still early.
but the word yet is real. Yeah. I was doing a camp once, and we had. I don't think they'll mind me saying this, Tommy Dutra's son at the camp.
Yeah.
And Ziggy was struggling with Sounders. And someone said, fire Ziggy. And Tommy's son was like, no. And you could feel the nervousness in this young boy. It was kind of a very sad, it tugged on a lot of the staff's heartstrings, seeing him upset about it. So, it's tough. When Ziggy was let go with the Sounders, it was very painful. I've seen him since, and that was not an easy situation. And Lorenzo is a great guy in this community, and he's beloved. And in his successful days, could have left the university to go to the NBA and talked about it and said, no, I could go make $5 million. I'm fine with what I'm getting here. And he wanted to stay and really help his alma mater. So the interesting conundrum for Jen Cohen, the athletic director, one, she's worked with him forever.
Sure.
So you'd be firing a friend. It would be a tough separation. But 2, my understanding is he's got a phenomenal class coming in. And does that class stay intact if Coach Romar's gone? So Bill would know more, I'm sure.
And that class is led by Michael Porter Jr., whose assistant coach dad is part of the Huskies staff. Lorenzo is this young man's godfather. So that's the closeness. The other nuts and bolts statistics here, if you will, is Lorenzo's under contract through 2020. And so Washington would have to buy him out more than $3 million at a time when the athletic department is not doing well financially. Part of it because they're not getting the Pac-12 TV revenue that was promised right away. There's a financial aspect, too, they would have to consider. I think, guys, it all comes down to, do the influential alumni at the University of Washington care enough about men's basketball to force a change like they have in the past for football when they said, this coach is not working out? Your analogy with Ziggy Schmidt is a great one. He had cachet. His teams had been to the playoffs every time. He'd won MLS championships. That was hard to get rid of him. But they agreed to it for the good of the program, for the good of the team. They had somebody waiting in the wings who was very competent in Brian Schmetzer. Washington doesn't. They would have to go out and do a national search to get somebody to succeed Lorenzo Romar and keep those recruits that he's bringing in. It's a top 5 class in the nation. So it's a real 50-50 call at this point. In their remaining games, they have to show improvement. They have to do okay in the Pac-12 and build the blocks for next season.
I think the other key, too, Bill, is does the UW alum have the will to stay with Lorenzo? That may take more will than to go, it's time for a change. What if they stay? I know it's easy for me to say. What if they stayed with Coach Romar for another season or 2? Let's see what develops with these folks, and then the whole thing turns around. Now we're having a different conversation. I know it's like I said. It's easy for me to say.
The nature of the beast is, Pete, you know this. You have to recruit talent. Can you keep them in college basketball because you got one and dones? He had 2 kids the year before he thought would stay for 2 years, including a local lad in DeJounte Murray from Rainier Beach High School. He thought Marquise Chris, project, he won't be that good right away. They are, and they're starting in the NBA in their rookie seasons. This is a real conundrum for college basketball coaches.
Yeah.
And then, or can you go to junior college and instantly become a good team? That doesn't happen to every program except Kentucky or Duke or those kind of places where you just rebuild every year and you're good. So, and the other thing for Romar is, and this was a great question asked by the Seattle Times reporter this week, Coach, have you doubted yourself this season? And Lorenzo said, no, that hasn't creeped into my mind because I've tasted victory. I know what it takes to succeed. So he hasn't started to doubt yet. The fan base might, but Coach still wants to do what he does.
Pete, let me go to you on this because I want to ask you, and I know you had a comment, but I want to throw a question in too. There's nothing you can do about the freshman rule in NCAA basketball at this point. Well, I don't mean there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that anyone is going to do. You don't have the same problem at that level with college soccer. You don't have people leaving after freshman year to
No, you don't.
to sign with Montreal or something.
Right. No, it is interesting because the money is so good. I thought about it this morning, and if someone's going to get millions of dollars to go play basketball, the risk of an injury that could end that career early, you can always go back to college. I think that's a fair statement. And so, but for us, we did just lose a first-team All-American who's now with the Sounders in Charleston. He has 1 year left, David Olson, and I love the kid. We send him. I said to Brian Schmetzer, I said he was a Sounder Academy player, so the Sounders have his rights, and I said I think I was his correct college coach. I was the right guy to coach him in college, and now I think you're the right guy to coach him in the pros. But we did just lose a player, and we didn't anticipate that, and I'm happy for him. It's interesting, Bill, when you were saying that Huskies seeing other Huskies ahead of them succeeding. For David Olson, he saw Henry Wingo from the University of Washington and Shea Adekoya from Stanford get contracts, and he says, hey, I'm better than those guys. I want to go get my time. So it is interesting how that momentum shift. Had those two players not been signed, Henry and Shea, maybe that we still have David.
Yeah, boy, that's a whole...
I would stay the course with Romar, getting back to your premise.
I am with you on that.
He has quality young people, too, and David Crisp and Matisse Thybulle and Dominic Green, who will come back next year and be better experienced basketball players. You have to have that core periphery players around your superstars. And they can show these freshmen coming in, here's the way we do it, and play defense. And then maybe they'll take off and blossom. You have to have that one game where it kind of clicks in, and you know you can do it and get over the hump. That hasn't happened for this young group this year.
No, I'm with you. I think the positives to keep him outweigh the negatives. And one of them is financial. If you have to pay out $3 million and you've got to pay $1.5 million to get someone, you're talking, just under $5 million to get it done, and it might be more than that to get someone that you really want. And then the fact that they've got that class, and as you say, the players that will return can teach them the ropes, and he's a great guy.
Yeah,
and every AD wants a Lorenzo Romar who's going to run a good program.
And for a guy like me, and really all of us, who I believe the glass is half full all the time, and we really should just try to fill it up to the top if you can. I'd like to see this scenario happen that we're talking about, just to make a statement, just to prove, at times you stick with what's working. Yeah. Maybe it hasn't worked in recent years. You don't just do the trip hammer kind of a knee-jerk reaction that every other school does. I know in the professional leagues they do it because you have an owner who has no patience anyway and makes a decision that's over. But let's see this play out if we can. We're going to come back in a minute with Bill and Pete, and I'm Tony Ventrella. Again, it's Tony Ventrella with, what's the name of the show again? Tony Ventrella with BS and Pete podcast. We've got Nothing But Fun coming up is the name of our next, not that we haven't been having a great time, don't get me wrong, but the Nothing But Fun segment coming back. We are coming to you streaming live on all of our Facebook pages, on my YouTube channel from Screaming Flea Media here in Tequila, not too far from Lowe's. Are they paying for this? Anyway, so we're going to come back and do nothing but goofy stuff from now. Not goofy. I mean, Heart of a very important to me. That's going to be next. We'll do Lupin. I want to mention a little something about the high school state stuff that's happening with real quick wrestling and this diving and swimming this weekend. Okay. Just because wrestling has evolved from an all-boys sport two
Right,
girls,
yeah,
and you got all kinds of different folks in there. And remember Ed Aliverti? He used to do
yeah.
all the
That classic, yeah.
Mat number 12. He'd do all the mats at once. He would call the opening round of the tournament. He'd be the live announcer up at a podium. And it's mats all over the place. And, of course, the finals are easy. You got two guys. You know?
Right.
But, there's like 12 matches. And there's a near pin on mat number 6. We actually did a feature with him once.
Really?
Ed was a
Was he using names of the guys?
oh, my
on
God.
that?
Well, somebody would, his wife, in fact.
That's so great.
Yeah,
He's
she
passed
spotted
away
for him,
since.
yeah.
She spotted. They did Olympics. They did 2 or 3 Olympic games. Yeah.
Really?
And he was was he not dean, but was he dean of students at Edmonds Community? I think he was for quite a while.
Might have been.
Yeah, late in his career. But anyway.
All right. Just a
okay.
reminder that you got your Facebook Live people watching all of this.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, no, that's good. That's what I like. Do you guys know? I know. Believe me, I was aware of that.
I wasn't.
Do you know Mike Reagan? You know who Mike Reagan
Sure.
is? Mike just did a portrait of my
My
late
wife used
sister.
to be neighbors of his.
I didn't know
in
that.
Edmonds, yeah.
That's probably my phone.
We got to call him. We got to call her.
So
Producer is messing up here. Sorry.
he started something. Mike and I have known each other for 30 years, but I mentioned at Christmas time about my sister Bunny. Every Christmas I do a Facebook post. I wrote about her in my book. It was the last Christmas that we spent together before she passed away. It was a very fun eve, just a crazy night where she had run downstairs to see what I got for Christmas. It was unwrapped and ran back up because we shared a bedroom in those back in the day. We were renting a house, and she said, "Oh, you got what you wanted." She described what it was. She screwed up the whole surprise. But then she passed away a year later, a year younger than me.
Yeah.
And all we had was 4 or 5 black and whites of her. So I wrote this Facebook post, and Mike said, "Do you have a picture of Bunny?" And I found one headshot.
Nice.
5 days later, he calls me to his house. I get a framed,
Wow.
unbelievable portrait of my sister. He's got a program called the Fallen Heroes Portrait Program. He's done nearly 5,000
Yep.
free for people that died in the various wars. All the kids at Marysville last year that were a couple of years back at Mukilteo last year at the Newtown, Connecticut, Sandy Hook, and it's just an unbelievable giver of his talent. So anyway,
He started out, it was a hobby. He would mail a request to a movie star or president and say, "I would love to draw your caricature. Here's a return envelope and just send me a picture and I'll do it for you."
Yeah.
That's how he started.
yeah, he talked about giving away your gift. I mean, which is what it's all about. So
Yeah.
All right.
He did a lot of, he did a big mural of the Husky coaches one year for football.
That's right.
Put that all together.
yeah, wow, that's right. And after Super Bowl 48, so that was
right.
pretty cool.
Is that his career?
He's a
Sounds like he does that for
he's
free.
a portrait artist.
He's retired, or he military, wasn't he? In
Yeah,
the
he was in
military?
Vietnam. He was active. Not only that, but I'm going to tell you this. Since we're streaming live on my Facebook, I am proud to tell you, I went to pick up the portrait a week ago. We took a walk because he walks every day, and where he lives in Edmonds. We walked 5.5 miles down to the waterfront. Some of I don't know how he managed to go up hills on some of that, but I love that. I said, "Wait, I thought we were going to the waterfront. Well, we're going up this hill first." And on that way, he told me that when he was a combat soldier in Vietnam, he would, during the downtime, which there is in combat, I wasn't in combat, believe me, but it's what he was telling me, and I've heard it before, he would do the portraits of his fellow soldiers, some of whom did not make it home. He would send the portraits to the parents. This is how it all started. And then became a professional, made a living. At one point, several years ago, decided, I'm giving up the money side, but he gets the people send him corporate people, and Microsoft, not Microsoft, Apple sent him a couple of huge computers, and he gets a lot of free stuff. But believe me, this guy is a saint.
Wow, that's
So
nice.
there you go.
All right. Well, here we go. We're gonna roll back from.
I love Facebook Live because even off the air, you're on the air.
Right,
I don't
right.
swear much. I'm not a cusser.
Cursor.
Cusser.
Cois. You don't cois.
Coiser. I don't cois.
All right, here we go.
I do in the car. If I'm driving and there's somebody too slow in front of me or following me behind,
Yeah, what's your go-to?
I might use a word or two that I don't normally
It's very
use.
deserving. Very deserving.
I'll say, darn you.
Yeah. As you. Yeah.
Yeah. Darn you, stop that. I think is one of the worst things.
Flower. All right, here we go.
You know so many priests that I have to be careful.
Yeah. My brother was one.
That's right.
Right up until I got married.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That does generally change that. That takes care of
All right, this is the Tony Ventrella podcast with BS and Pete. Pete Fewing in the middle, Bill Schwartz on the flank. By the way, nice sweater, Bill. You got the Argyle, the left side Argyle.
Got to give Pete the memo next
No,
time.
but Pete's got that
Well, it's kind
really
of a Fewing sandwich that way.
kind of an expensive looking thing there.
Yeah,
Some
$1,400.
Was it that much?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
good. Some donor at the school gave you that. Some alum.
Shoes.
A couple things I want to do now. We're going to do a feature called Heart of a Champion on this show every week. Frosty Westring
Oh, yeah.
would always talk about Heart of a Champion people, and he was, of course, one of them who had a heart of a champion. But it's people who give away, somebody like we were talking about before we officially went back on the air, which you're never off when you're on Facebook. Does that make sense? You've got someone who definitely has worked with you for so many years who has the heart of a champion. I
Yes.
want you to talk about it, Peter.
Well,
Go ahead.
so I was lucky to stumble onto Frank Bartonetti, and we will have him on this show, I'm sure.
Yes, we will.
Frank's 83 now. He worked with the Seahawks. Kirk Gibson, in his book, Bottom of the Ninth, Kirk hit the home run to win the World Series or Game 6 for the Dodgers. He had the bad knee. They always show that highlight. Kirk Gibson said, Frank Bartonetti changed my life. Worked with us for 10 years. 1996, his first. He's a cross between Danny DeVito, Columbo, and George Burns in the movie Oh God. And I'm not
That's
kidding
perfect.
you. And it does describe him. He has a tremendous sense of humor. I'll give you, when President Clinton got in trouble with Miss Lewinsky,
Yes.
Frank phoned or wrote to the Speaker of the House. I'm not kidding you, Speaker Wright, and got a comment back saying, Frank, we may bring you to the White House. And because he's worked with half the Fortune 500 companies, NASA, the Pentagon. So Frank is a fascinating guy. 96 joins our team. We have no idea why he's with us. 97, we lose the first game, we never lose again. We're national champs. Frank stays with us. 2004, we're national champs. I go to the Kitsap Pumas. I bring Frank out for a few things, and we're national champs with the Kitsap Pumas. So, and he once said to Father William J. Sullivan, president of Seattle University, at the national finals, he looked at him and he said, I don't care who you are, I'm calling you Billy. And on the sidelines, and I said, I couldn't contain myself. I said, I'm calling you Billy Ray. And I turned around quickly and I looked at Frank and I said, if we lose, this will be our last game with CLU. So Frank he's a savant. He's a genius. We were in a meeting once and we did two-on-ones with the players, and Frank looked at one of the players and said, I'm the Michael Jordan of common sense. And then he said, I like that. And he would say things sometimes that I'd say that again, and he'd say, it's gone.
It's gone.
I'm a genius, it's gone. But he gave me this years ago, and when I read this to you earlier, Tony, you said, so it sits in the back of my day timer, and you said this possibly is from Og Mandino.
It definitely is a very nice job of putting Og Mandino's words into his words. And I'm sure Frank was a follower if you ask him. In fact, we'll get him on here.
Yes.
I know he probably met Og Mandino when Og was alive.
I would believe that. Yeah, I would believe that. He, phenomenal guy. So these are his affirmations that he would read, and they're really well written. The words are very, they create a good picture for you. 10 vows of success. Never again will I pity or belittle myself. Never again will I greet the dawn without a map. Gotta have a plan. Always will I bathe my days in the golden glow of enthusiasm. Never again will I be disagreeable to a living soul. I got into something with another coach before a game on what side we were warming up with, and I wasn't disagreeable with him, and this came right into my head. Right? Always will I seek the seed of triumph in every adversity. Never again will I perform any task at less than my best. Always will I throw my whole self into the task at hand. Never again will I wait for opportunity to embrace me. Always will I examine each night my deeds of the fading day. Always will I maintain contact through prayer with my Creator.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
The 10 scrolls. Many books written by Og Mandino. I would bet that that came from one of the greatest salesmen of the world, which was one of his many, many bestsellers. So, first of all, I've never met Frank, but Frank, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And Pete, thank you for sharing that. We're going to do Heart of a Champion every week. We'll each pick one, and it'll be Bill's turn next time, and then I'll go after that. And because I think it's important, and especially in today's world, in any day's world, it's important to know that there are keys to changing the outcome for you and all the people around you. So thank you again, our Heart of a Champion.
My pleasure. I already have mine for the next one.
Good.
And it's a book recommended by Pete Carroll called Rules for a Night.
Yes.
I've bought 60 copies. Our players have them. I've given them to Brian Schmetzer, the Sounders. He's read all the way through it, but I've given it to two presidents of companies. One bought 60 copies for his employees, and it's an airplane read. Rules for Ethan Hawke, the actor, great grandfather. They believe was a knight, and he was going into battle, and he didn't think he would make it. And so he wrote down what the rules of a night were, and it's fantastic. All our players are reading it right now.
That is cool,
Yeah,
and we're going to do it. And as you're watching our Facebook pages here, live on Facebook, Bill Schwartz, Pete Fewing, Tony Ventrella. We welcome comments on this. I welcome comments on Heart of a Champion. This is not the kind of thing you necessarily will hear on broadcast radio. And I will not criticize broadcast radio. I had a show for about 3 weeks before they realized that maybe there was
You were
another
on,
way
you
to
were
go.
sneaking in.
Exactly. That was, but the point is, or broadcast TV, I was on that for 30 years, and and they try, believe me, they try hard to do a positive story once in a while, and people need that. We just need it today or anytime. We're going to go to our final segment, which is our guest of the week. Who, frankly, you've heard the term fake news. No, I'm not going there. I am not going to start criticizing people here. But there is a term fake news I've heard. We have fake guests on the show. Because a lot of times, first of all, they're easier to get.
Yes. Yeah.
To try.
They cost less.
They cost a lot less.
Especially
They're
with
easier to
our
get.
budget, yeah.
Yeah. And, so we've invited former Mariner manager, the most successful manager in the history of the Seattle Mariners, who started his career as a Seattle pilot back in '69, played the outfield, went to the Yankees, had success with the Yankees. I actually interviewed him at Yankee Stadium in 1977. Then later, thank goodness, was hired here, I believe it was in '93. Sweet Lou Piniella is our guest today. Sweet Lou, thanks for being here. I know you always get that. This is your favorite time of year. It's time for spring training.
Well, it really is. Fellas, hope springs eternal, and when you can go to, Peoria or Surprise or Glendale and get on the great green grass and just take a big whiff of it with all the fellas out there doing some BP and a little pickle, maybe shag a few balls. Speaking of shag, 888-450-SHAG. 99 bottles of beer on the wall. We'll take some seniors down there and we'll have a really good time. We really will.
Those first few days of spring training, well, I got to tell you we'll get back to you in a second, Lou, but Lou was you were at a, behind the batting cage at the Old Kingdom. No, it was the Old Kingdom. It was because he wasn't here yet. It was, or was he? Yes, what am I talking about? It was the Old Kingdom.
Sure it was.
Yeah,
They blew it up. Remember the ceiling tiles fell? They had to get rid of it.
Randy had to move out of the way so he didn't get hit.
It was a dump.
I'm there. We're working for Cairo 7, trying to get a pregame interview with Lou, and he's talking to the opposing manager. I don't remember who it was.
That might have been Sparky.
Could have been. They're hanging back behind the batting cage with their hands up, looking through. And I go over to Lou, and I say, I need to talk to you for a second. And he turned. He said, I'm busy. And I said, you're not busy. You're just talking to this guy. And he turned to me with that look.
Oh.
But realizing that I was actually his age,
Yeah.
he thought, I can't say anything nasty to this guy. So we did the interview. But I don't know, you remember that, Lou? That time?
I probably called you. What, sir?
You did
Well, sir,
call
I'm
me.
kind of busy right now. I'm watching the sheriff throw a little BP.
That's right.
And Norm Charlton,
The sheriff.
Junior, snagged some fly balls and hurt his wrist running into the center field wall. It's time for Richie Amaral to come in again and take over for about a month.
What was the key? What would be the key, Lou, to getting back to that '95 magic? You mentioned Rich Amaral. You mentioned some of the heroes of that '95 year. How do we get back? People have been desperate to get back to that. Almost did in 2001.
Well, you've heard that there's no crying in baseball.
Right. No
Well, we
crying.
had a kid who cried all the time.
Really?
Little Joey Corey. He'd cry when he show up at the Kingdom for batting practice. He'd cry when A-Rod wouldn't throw it to him on a turn of double play. He just cried all the time. So if you can cry about baseball, that's the secret to it right there.
It is. Yeah, more crying.
Pete, you have a question? First of all, let me ask you about Peter Fewing. You've followed his career. This is a 3-time national.
I really, really have. What are we? 10 times, 15 times national champion. Great kid. Grew up here, played collegiately. Just an outstanding. Got a great young arm and left footer.
Really?
Could overhand throw the ball in on
overhand.
the great throw-ins.
Yeah.
I love him.
I didn't realize that. You had a good arm? Soccer arm.
We were 2 games from Williamsport when in Little League Baseball.
I did not know that.
Bases loaded.
Johnny Carson used to say.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Hawaii. Guy hits a fly ball. I'm in right field. Guy hits a fly ball. Our second baseman goes back. He's got his glove up, lights, and then he turns and looks at me. And all of a sudden I am running. Goes right underneath my glove. Yeah. And the center fielder was the guy I'd played youth soccer with all our careers together. Played at Washington together, and 3 runs scored. We lost 8-4.
Wow.
And they had a great
Whoa.
song. Washington, Washington, how are you? Hawaii, Hawaii says goodbye to you. Aloha.
Whoa, those fans
And
are
our
always.
pitcher's name was Ron Darling.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I do
All
have a
right.
question for you. So I remember Ken Griffey Jr. sitting on the bench with his glove over his mouth because you were kicking your hat back from second base. What was your technique? Was there a hamstring injury involved in getting that hat
Well,
back?
son, I don't remember what my technique was, quite frankly, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I do remember this. When I hurled the base out into the outfield, I know I hurt my shoulder, I hurt my coccyx, I even hurt my head.
I'm going to have to look that up.
It's
that
something
last one.
I wouldn't do anytime soon.
I guess not. And of course, we all remember the Rob Dibble episode in the Cincinnati Reds locker room many years before you came here.
And the sheriff was there too, Norm Charlton, part
Yeah,
of
he
that
was.
ball club.
That's right.
That's the nasty boys in the Cincinnati bullpen.
Was
And a
a
really,
tough-
really good pitching staff.
Well, the one that's funny, back at my days at King 5, Dory Monson, by the way, has a very successful radio show on 97.3, was my he was my producer. And the news director back then said, okay, you can go to 4 major events this year, national events. We picked the World Series. It was 1990, the Reds and the A's. And Pinella's team sweeps it 4-0. And there you go. Probably the least interesting World Series I could have picked to go to, but that was the one. So, Lou, success there, and you almost had one here.
Well, we really did. What was it, 95? We had, Dino Martinez at first base.
Yeah.
And Edgar DHing for us, and Blow at third. And then you got a guy like, Junior in center field, probably the greatest ball player of our generation. And behind the plate, Danny Wilson.
Yeah.
And then the big unit. What did he come out of the bullpen against the Yankees and saved us in that great series?
I remember that.
Who could forget? What a great season, and it saved Seattle baseball.
It did.
Really, really did.
It did. Last question for both of you guys. Peter Fewing in the middle, Lou Piniella being played by Bill Schwartz on the flank. Edgar Martinez, Hall of Fame?
Well, it's
Future?
got to be. Who else has the award designated hitter named Edgar Martinez? And he's not in Cooperstown.
That's a good point.
He goes in, and I'll go in with him.
Yeah, that's good. You should, Lou. I think it's a great way to go. Hey, I want to thank Lou Piniella, Bill Schwartz, Peter Fewing for doing this podcast with me, the Tony Ventrella podcast with BS and Pete. If you've liked what you've seen, if you haven't liked what you've seen, whoops, I just knocked the mic into the next room. We are streaming live on all of our Facebook pages, on my YouTube channel from Screaming Flea Media. Thanks to Aaron and the gang here at Screaming Flea. And we're going to do sponsors on the show eventually, because at some point, if Pete and Bill don't get anything for this, I'll be sitting there by myself going, let me see here. I can do that voice. I think JFK was the only voice I could ever do, successfully back in the 1960s, when it was time for us to move ahead with vigor as a nation. Anyway, that's going to be
Wow. Close your eyes when he does that.
Not.
Yes, yeah. And so that wraps it up for us. Thanks for being with us. We're going to do this weekly, and we'll stream a bunch of these. They'll also be able to get it on your phone, and we'll give you a link for it as we go forward. And sponsors will be coming on board, but we're going to keep the commercials to 10 seconds, no more than 10 seconds each. So thank you again for being with us, Bill and Peter.
I'm Tony. You have a great day, and God bless you.